From 1817 in the small town of Adams, Tennessee, a wealthy farmer named John Bell found his family persecuted over a 4-year period by a frighteningly powerful phenomenon who became known as the Bell Witch. Despite being labelled legend, townsfolk and subsequent generations of the Bell family continued to claim that these events really happened. The unsettling occurrences began in the form of strange-looking phantom animals, which appeared and disappeared. These took the form of dogs and a bizarre, unusual bird, bigger than a turkey, which was perched high in an oak tree. Being farmers, Bell and his sons shot at the intrusive pests, which fell but instantly disappeared. On another occasion, Bell's youngest daughter, 12-year-old Betsy, spotted a girl wearing a green dress who was about her own age, swinging from a branch of the tall oak. Wanting to make friends with the girl, Betsy approached the tree, but the girl vanished as if an apparition. These strange sightings were followed by a barrage of eerie and ominous sounds around the Bell's house and witnessed by family and servants alike. The unexplained rattling of windows, rapping of the door, clawing around the floor, and muffled snarling and what sounded like dogs fighting. Sounds were daily added to this cacophony of choking, gurgling, furniture scraping, and chains clanking throughout the house, while the bedposts appeared to have been chewed by invisible rats during the night. The terrifying events escalated as family members were attacked. Children's hair was pulled and bedding yanked off during the night by invisible hands, while any resistance was met with a powerful blow out of nowhere. Betsy Bell seemed to be particularly under attack, being slapped, pinched, and stuck with pins. She complained of feelings of suffocation and fainting. Her face was often streaked red and raw, and she could often be heard screaming in her bedroom at night. At times, she felt all over pins and needle sensations, and on one occasion was seen to vomit a torrent of the sharp objects. Her concerned parents sent her away to stay with friends, but the attacks followed and became even more frenzied in her assaults. The Bell family persecution achieved notoriety throughout the region, with spiritualists and exorcists flocking to Adams from all over Tennessee and Kentucky to provide assistance. Their intervention, however, started to give the witch a voice, starting with unclear, rapped-out responses, whistling, then an unmistakable whisper, and, over time, bold but evasive answers to questions. When asked about its origins and intent, the entity replied in stilted speech,
I am a spirit
from everywhere. Heaven, hell, the earth.
I was once
very happy but have been disturbed.
I am in the air.
In houses, any place, at any time, have been created millions of years. That is all I will tell you. The spirit attributed her disturbance to interference with the Native American burial mound on the Bell's property, but happily accepted the moniker of Old Kate Batts Witch, or Kate. As well as her ability to shapeshift, she could be in 2 places at once. At one point, she repeated word for word 2 sermons given by local preachers who were 30 miles apart at exactly the same time. She had knowledge of the Bible and seemed to enjoy religious arguments. She also engaged in local gossip, appearing to leave the Bell's home for short periods to check on other households. However, the witch's vocabulary became increasingly obscene, shocking the pious Bible Belt community, and her unwanted attentions turned from Betsy to her father, John Bell. The invisible entity announced to an astonished group gathered in the Bell kitchen one night that she was determined to haunt and torment old Jack as long as he lives. John Bell had experienced a facial tic and paralysis of his mouth early on in the haunting, and these conditions became increasingly unmanageable. His tongue swelled so large that he could not eat or talk, and his whole face became distorted while enduring daily screamed curses as he tried to continue his farm work. He was often bedridden with pain and stress for days. On one occasion, as he walked with his son to the pig pen, his tightly laced shoes kept flying off one after the other, only to be replaced and go flying off again. This final onslaught was accompanied by maniacal singing, physical blows from invisible hands, and the spasmodic contortion of Bell's face, and then his whole body. Again he took to his bed, this time permanently, as over weeks he deteriorated to a comatose state and then passed. It was later reported that an unfamiliar vial of liquid had been found next to his bed, which the witch then claimed to have placed and fed to Bell. It was found to be an unknown poison. To add to the tormented grief of the family, the disembodied voice of the witch shrieked drinking songs at Bell's funeral. A strange aspect of the Bell Witch haunting was her evident kindness towards John's wife and Betsy's mother Lucy, whom she described as the most perfect woman to walk the earth. She gave Lucy gifts of fresh fruit and sang hymns to her, also showing respect to her son, John Bell Jr. Some local skeptics divide tests of the witch's powers. One found that she could utter the same words and accent as his Dutch step-grandmother, who lived in another state. Another investigator was shocked to hear her mimicking his parents who lived in England. Staying overnight in the Bell household, he was awoken by the voices of his parents expressing concern because they had also heard him speaking. Hastily leaving the house, the terrified man later wrote to the Bells and said that the witch had visited his family in England, and he apologised for his scepticism. Before taking her leave of the Bell family, the witch again interfered in Betsy's life. Betsy Bell was now 16 and seen as being from a prominent family with a well-to-do background. Betsy had attracted two prospective marriage suitors. One was the local schoolmaster Richard Powell, and the other Joshua Gardner, who was closer in age to Betsy. Despite Betsy's preference for Gardner, his visits to her became increasingly difficult as the attacks of the Bell Witch became more volatile, and her repeated screams, "Please Betsy Bell, don't have Joshua Gardner." Betsy finally called off her planned wedding to Gardner and married Powell, but became widowed in her early 30s. On leaving the Bell household, the witch promised to return in 7 years. 7 years later, only Lucy Bell and two younger sons lived in the house, and they experienced some mild poltergeist activity, but nothing like the previous haunting. It is hard to dismiss the phenomenon of the Bell Witch as a hoax or even an embroidered narrative, as there were so many witnesses and investigations of the inexplicable and often brazen occurrences. Descendants of the original Bell family continued to blame the witch for a legacy of misfortunes experienced over generations.